One of the most difficult things that any of us can do is have the really hard conversations with yourself and with other people. I had to understand what my potential life would be like as a musician. I also had to have a very good understanding of what my musical strengths and weaknesses were.
So lovely to talk to you.
You too, Petra.
And you are in Switzerland at the moment.
I am, yes. I live in Zurich.
Okay. And from South Africa to Zurich.
Yeah.
What brought you there?
No. I spent 10 years in London,
Yeah.
a year in Amsterdam, almost 5 years in Basel in Switzerland, and now in Zurich for almost 4 years.
Oh, I see. Okay, so you left a long time ago.
Yes, I did, yeah.
But where did you grow up in South Africa?
Pretoria.
Really? Oh, okay. It's
Yeah.
not too far from where I grew up.
Where did you grow up?
Van der Bijl Park.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So Sean, you are you are a musician, but you're also
Yes.
This is not your main, or you're not like a professional musician. You are a musician for the love for the music.
I am, totally, yes.
Yeah.
I was always planning to become a professional musician right until my late teens. And then I decided to rather pursue another direction. And it was a tough decision because, when you believe something for such a long time and you almost think it's set in stone, to then suddenly change direction is not always easy. But I was lucky. I had the best of both worlds. When I was studying medicine at University of Pretoria, I was also doing cello at the same time with Professor Gerard van der Geest. Wonderful, wonderful teacher. And I managed to actually have the best of both worlds, playing in the university orchestra and also doing a lot of gig work.
But now, as a child growing up in Pretoria, you played the cello and you did the lessons and everything, and that was always in your mind. You said that you're going to become a professional musician. So when did that change for you, or what made you think that this is not going to be possible?
So I started off with piano when I was about 6 years old, and I only started with cello lessons at about 11. I was really, really into cello, incredibly passionate about it. I then went to Arte, which was the art school in Pretoria, and I had the privilege of being surrounded by some amazingly talented individuals. I think being surrounded by them and also the high level of music education that the school offered at that time allowed me to put things into context and also think about where I might fit into the, let's call it, musical hierarchy of musicians, and what my opportunities might actually be to pursue a career. I've always been quite realistic and pragmatic about my options, and I had a great opportunity to start working in a professional capacity, meaning that I was earning money from the age of 16, where I put together a small ensemble and we used to play for weddings and other small functions.
Wow.
And the music scene in South Africa is pretty small, so it doesn't take long before you sort of totally in the whole musical network. Also working with amazingly professional musicians. As you will remember at that time, because of the legacy of having a lot of foreigners moving to South Africa to play in our professional orchestras, we had an abundance of really, really amazing musicians. So getting to work with them at a really early age was fantastic. And it made me think that maybe I didn't have to have this as my primary form of income, because my love for music has always been there from a very young age, and I didn't really want to do anything to jeopardize that or make any decisions that would influence that in a potentially negative way. And to be honest, I was also teaching at university. I was teaching cello, and that was not really something that I thought I could do in the long term. And all of these factors together really made me decide to have music as my passion, something that I could do as much or as little as I wanted, and not be reliant on it for my financial well-being.
What year was that now that you started studying medicine, that you made that decision?
So this was in 1996.
Okay.
When I started studying medicine. And I'll never forget the first day of medical school. I'd already been playing in the university orchestra for about a year, and it was an orchestra rehearsal straight after that, and we were rehearsing the Tchaikovsky Serenade for Strings. And I remember thinking to myself as I came out of this rehearsal, my God, what have I done? I'm now pursuing something where I feel like a complete fish out of water, and my whole comfort zone was in the music department. I had to start positioning it differently in my head to be able to realize that this was not actually the end. This was the beginning of something wonderful. And that's exactly the attitude I went through my university years, and it worked out really, really well.
Well, it's why I also wanted to speak to you, because I find it so interesting that actually all these, art and sciences and the maths, they are all connected. And you are now the second person I speak to who are involved in medicine and in music, but just the other way around, because I spoke to a young conductor who actually in his final year of medicine decided that he wants to be a musician. He wants to pursue a career in music, and he like I think it was on the day or the day before the final exam, he made that decision and he switched over to study conducting. So what you are saying now, this is this thing where you have the passion but with you it was the other way around. You felt that this was not going to be your life. This was not going to be how you want to live your life. And now in hindsight, do you regret ever making that decision?
No, I think one of the most difficult things that any of us can do is have the really hard conversations with yourself and with other people. I had to understand what my potential life would be like as a musician. I also had to have a very good understanding of what my musical strengths and weaknesses were. My musical strengths, I would say, have always been much more in the academic side, as well as in the logistical, arranging things, bringing people together, that sort of thing. I would never say that performance was my strong point. And with that in mind, I had doubts as to how I would enjoy being a professional musician. And of course, I considered other career options. You don't necessarily have to be a performer to be a musician. But I was also very interested in pursuing something that, like music, transcends all cultures, that really speaks to the essence of what we are as people or sentient beings, if you want to go that far. Music speaks to anyone. And I think pursuing a career in medicine also helped me to fulfill some of those desires to be involved in an environment that also speaks to the same thing. We all want the same things as human beings. We all want to be happy. We all want to live healthy lives. And I've really been able to find the happy medium between those two things. And it's not uncommon. When I was studying, we had a wonderful professor of physiology, Professor Marianne Haag, and she set up an organization called the Faculty of Medicine Culture Action Committee. we had the wonderful opportunity to be able to host concerts at the medical faculty because there were enough people there who actually played at a reasonably good standard to be able to put on concerts. We even went as far as to have an exchange concert with the Faculty of Music. So our people went to the Museum at the University of Pretoria to do a lunch hour concert there, and their people came to the Faculty of Medicine to give a concert there. And I've seen as I've of course left university, this connection is very strong. There's a number of orchestras around the world that are only made up of doctors. So I'm a member of two of them, the European Doctors Orchestra as well as the World Doctors Orchestra, where there's definitely no shortage of really talented musicians in those groups.
Well, here in Vienna is also, I've spoken to a conductor who has an orchestra, not necessarily doctors, but professionals in other fields, but for the love for music, they play in the orchestra. And this you find in America a lot because of the situation that people really cannot live from music alone, and so they pursue careers and have this on the side, the music. But I've spoken to many artists over the lockdown time, and I've always raised this question, the importance of music education, and how this is something where the research has been done already, that it has an effect on the brain and development of the brain, and that this is so important for children to be able to not just music but art as such, dancing and also visual arts. But would you say now this could be interesting to hear if the fact that you studied music also helped you in your studies, your medical studies, there you can say, well, you've learned the discipline of the practicing or some. Do you think there's a connection in the brain that helped you?
Absolutely. So, I mean, apart from all the many studies that have been done looking at the effects of music on the brain, not only in early development, but we also have evidence that music can really help for things like, preventing the onset of Alzheimer's. Even people who have Alzheimer's, they may remember music, they may respond to music. We've seen this over and over again. But as a child developing, the things you learn from music is really something which is translatable into many other things in your life. And music requires a lot of discipline. It also requires the ability to think in an abstract way. And for me, I think that was quite difficult because I tend to respond well to things that are given, clearly in instructions. So, instructions like play loud here or play soft there or, play staccato or whatever. Sometimes it's not only about that. I remember once at high school, I had cello lessons with the wonderful Marion Lewin, and I was learning the Kol Nidre by Max Bruch. And I noticed she was getting a little frustrated, and she sort of said, "Play with a Jewish heart." And I was like, "But I don't know what that means." And I had to think about it because I had to sort of think about, what is she actually asking me to do? And in a scientific career, I think that's very, very applicable. Science is in black and white, and we've learned this so well now during the COVID pandemic. I think many people were expecting really black and white responses or answers, but we were learning as we were going along. And this ability to think a little bit more abstractly, but also to think beyond just what you see in front of you. I think that's something that you learn a lot from music.
you are saying things that I feel that I have in my mind, but I don't have the words. I cannot express myself always so well. But this is exactly what I was thinking. About the pandemic as well. That it wasn't black and white, and it wasn't. There was nothing that was. That could have been predicted. And I think it's the same in art. And it's the same with artists. And I feel that through doing art, you have to have some sort of ability to dream, some sort of ability to see something that's not already there, because
Exactly.
otherwise you would not pursue it. The first time you played the cello, you had this dream, you had this idea of you playing maybe in an orchestra, and you ended up playing there. And I think this is what artists really teach us, that in this time, especially in this time, the resilience and how they came out of this and still had the dreams. I had so many. Then I asked, what is the dream here? What do you see after the pandemic? And so many things that they've said actually came true, which made me think that they could see further, or they could see the positive in things. And I think this would be also helpful in the sciences, that people could have that creative insight into things.
Well, I think you need creativity as a scientist, because otherwise you fall into the trap of doing everything the way that it's been done in the past, which is a definite recipe for less than anticipated success. If we want to progress in science, we have to think differently, and we also have to learn from the past and build on that, not necessarily just repeat whatever's happened in the past. And I'm thinking particularly around the way we do scientific experiments. And for me, I think that makes a difference between a great scientist and a good scientist.
So now, how is your life? How do you have this mixture between your work, as a doctor, or as a musician? How do you juggle the two now?
It's been quite different since I've been living in Switzerland. When I was living in London, the music scene in London is, of course, very, very big, and there's a multitude of opportunities to play in a wide range of orchestras. The amateur orchestras in London some of them are of a really, really high standard, and you can get a great amount of musical fulfillment from playing in those. Things have been slightly different in Switzerland, so I've had to improvise a bit to find things that I want to do that's going to still fulfill my musical creativity. When I was living in Basel, I was working for Novartis at the time, and we were able to collaborate with the Basel Symphony Orchestra to actually bring some of their musicians onto campus for things like, on World Alzheimer's Day, we had a lecture on music and the brain by a very eminent professor from the University of Basel, who really sort of explained exactly how music is good for the brain at any age, and we were focusing particularly in the later years, and then I've also met some other musicians here in Switzerland. In Zurich, I work with some musicians, and we're actually in the process. Well, in 2 weeks' time, we're going to be recording some Christmas music.
Really?
Since May this year, I started learning the harp, which has been a lifelong ambition, and I finally decided this was the year that I would do it.
Yeah.
And I needed to set a goal for myself. Yeah. So I really was part of a string quartet here, so I got another cellist to play in my place, and I arranged all the music so that I would be able to play it on the harp, because my harp playing ability is obviously not very advanced at this stage.
Yeah.
But hopefully we'll be able to put that on social media.
Yeah, I saw that you learning to play the harp, and I thought, wow, this is amazing that you and so you can play the piano still.
I do still play the piano,
cello,
yeah,
and
the cello.
and the harp. Wow, that's great.
It's
so
a wonderful instrument.
really,
It's really exceeding all of my expectations. It's a wonderful journey, and I'm really enjoying being a beginner again. And although I'm very frustrated at times because I know exactly what I want to do and I can't do it because I simply don't have the ability physically yet to do it, going back to some of the basic principles and being able to learn good technique from the beginning is extremely satisfying. And so this is a really wonderful journey, and I found a lovely teacher here in Zurich. So we're on this journey together.
Sean, but I'm very interested in also in the educating side of it, in the sense that my wish is that there could be more awareness to the fact that art should be taught in schools, and that children have the ability to have exposure to all forms of art. So whenever you do something in Zurich, related to that and to children, or to I know too little about the research that's been done, but I'm sure you know all the important things about that. But I think things like this, even that you say now that you do these programs where you work with the elderly, or where you work with people with dementia, it's so important that we understand the advantages, and that we understand the great healing properties of music as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I think, for each of us, no matter who we are, we have some kind of musical journey. And for most people, that musical journey is just around the music that they listen to. And it's such a powerful medium, because I think there's few other things in life that can evoke such strong emotions as music does, let alone not even talking about anything technical like the parts of the brain that are involved in music. And we're not only talking about playing a musical instrument, and we're also talking about listening to music. It's wonderful to see the different parts of the brain that actually start to light up just by listening to music.
Oh, that's wonderful. Yeah, I saw a research that was done in Germany, where they actually had these monitors on the audience brains and on the musicians, and they could see the same reaction almost, between who were playing the instruments and actually who were listening. So these types of research I find so interesting, because I think we focus so much on the sciences and on maths, and it's now in the schools so important that you hear so many times of parents saying, my child has to have maths and science just to go on to the next school, not even to go and study science, but just to go on to the next school. And then you think, but what about those children who express themselves better through dance, or better through music, or some sort of visual art? And I think if we just dismiss art as a side subject, or a half an hour a week you can go to singing, I think that should change, and so that we really see the value in art.
I totally agree. And I wish that more children would be exposed to a wide range of things so that they can make the choices for themselves. I am very grateful that my parents had a very open-minded approach to everything and gave us the opportunity to explore where our interests lay. And I was not pushed into music. Music was something I naturally gravitated towards. And my wish is that other parents would have the same kind of open-minded approach, who, when they see an interest developing in a child, that they can foster that interest and support them to explore it further, with no expectation that it's actually going to lead anywhere. But just having the opportunity is, in my opinion, wonderful.
Yeah, exactly. And the same, you're such an example of that, you know, of having that privilege to do music, but then making the decision and saying, well, you know, this is not what I'm going to pursue as a career, but I'm still going to do it as part of my life.
Yeah, and it's you also made me think of something else. You know, music lessons as a child, I think some teachers have various approaches to teaching music, but there was one teacher that I had who was in Pretoria. She was a violin teacher, Jenny Pereira, and her main goal of teaching music was to cultivate a love of music. She didn't care that, you know, the majority of her pupils would never really carry on or, you know, pursue anything to do with violin. She was more concerned about them really wanting to be in the audience and just enjoy and love music. And that always stayed with me, because, you know, it's very easy, especially when I was in the school like Pro Arte, to get caught up in the actual, you know, competition, progress, you know, evaluation, measurement, all of these things, and the love or the actual spirit of music can easily get lost when you're surrounded by all of this. So to have a teacher in the mix like that was also wonderful, and I really wish that, you know, more teachers would be like that.
Exactly. And I also think many times, you know, I think a child is the natural artist. A child is the natural, even if they're not, you know, educated to that level, but that is the time where you see that natural artistry come out. Now it has to be taught. Now, you know, you have to teach and you have to develop. But sometimes I think that natural artistry gets squashed a little bit into what somebody is expecting. And I think every artist have their own pace of development. I don't think all children at a young age are the best that they should, or on the level that they should be. But they do progress at their own pace, and then they develop into an artist that has to have something or give something in that spirit of the art. So I think it is very important that it has to be a teacher who creates the love, or who has the patience with the child to think, you have to go your pace and how you progress in your way. And it's not always there. It's not always, you don't always, especially in, I think in art schools, there is a lot of competition. Yeah. But Sean, tell me, what do you do then? So you have your work and you have your music, but do you have other hobbies that you do? Other things? What do you do to wind down?
Yes, I'm really passionate about exercise. So you'll find me in the gym most mornings before I start working. I really am a strong believer in prevention is better than cure. I believe that good health is not something that can be expected. Good health is something that we have to actively work on to stay healthy. Bad lifestyle choices will lead to bad health outcomes. Good lifestyle choices will usually lead to good health outcomes. And that's really what I believe. So I just love the whole process of exercising, feeling the natural endorphins. It's great.
Yeah, and I think that's also probably for musicians, and maybe now for your harp playing. I heard that you have to really have some power to pull those strings of the harp. Is that true?
Yes. Well, it's quite a different technique to playing the piano.
Okay.
With piano, you sort of have your whole arm unit to sort of help you. With playing the harp, a lot of it really just comes from your hands. So having the right positions, really understanding where your fingers need to go to create a good sound within your hand. It's a different way of thinking about it, and that's been quite fascinating for me as I've been learning the harp. It's only been 6 months, so there's still a lot to learn, but it's great.
But it's great that you took on that challenge and to do it. Yeah, Sean, it was so lovely to talk to you now, and really, if you ever come to Vienna, let me know and we can grab a coffee together. That would be so nice.
That would be wonderful.
Yeah.
Thank you, Petra. Vienna is really one of my favorite cities in the world. So I really take that as a great invitation.
Okay, then we'll see each other hopefully soon.
Wonderful.
Okay, Sean, have a lovely day.
Okay. You too.
Lovely speaking to you. Okay,
You
bye.
too. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Thank you, bye.